Hey everybody, it's Josh Feedy. Welcome to the Founders Mentality. This is episode 11. I have Reed joining me today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a little bit here. But the reason I wanted to have Reed in here is a couple of reasons. Number one, Reed was very critical to the time that I launched my business. He was very impactful in why I decided to just make that jump. He was a big part of that for me. So I wanted to have him in for that reason. But number two, I wanted to have him in because, as you know, one of my big passions is the startup ecosystem here in Minnesota. And that is something that Reed and I absolutely share. And if anybody has a finger on the pulse of the startup situation in Minnesota, it would be this man here. So Reed, welcome to the Founders Mentality. Can you just do a quick introduction, tell us who you are, and tell you what you're currently doing?
Well, thank you so much for having me here, Josh. This is a real pleasure.
Yeah.
I am currently the executive director of BETA, also known as BETA.MN.
Yep.
We've been doing this for over 5 years now. So what people might not know is most of that time with me in the organization was extracurricular. It was just kind of something that I did, much like you do this podcast to your business on the side. And that changed last year when I went on full time, about a year ago now. So been doing that ever since, kind of helping to expand the programming, fill in some gaps on the leadership team, and really try to get the organization to a place where it can be sustainable in perpetuity. So
great.
That's how I spend my day to day. It's a lot of introductions.
Yep.
It's a lot of putting out fires and lugging boxes of t-shirts.
Usually that's what I see you doing.
Yeah. So all of the above.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be bizarre for me to have a conversation with the mayor about the future economic vitality of the Twin Cities, and then be hauling a box of t-shirts in the same day.
Right. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining. This is awesome for me. So, like I said in the beginning, the beta program was actually a big deal for me in actually launching my business. I think that one thing that a lot of founders struggle with is just launching, right? And I was kind of in the midst of this paralysis by analysis in my own life with my own business. And we had sat down and somebody had referred me to you and said, look, you got to talk to Reed. You got to get in the next cohort that he has. So we sat down and chatted, and I thought, okay, if I get into this program, I'm going to make this happen. I got to launch. But the caveat to be in the program was that your product had to be a viable product that people could use, which we were not at the time.
Yeah.
And so you let us in. I don't know if I ever told you this. I kind of lied. Like, we weren't ready. You asked
I figured
me,
it out.
Yeah. You were like, are you ready? I'm like, I'm totally ready. No problem. Like, let me in. And you let me in, and I called my devs. I'm like, guys, can you finish this in like 2 weeks before we have to like actually show that this is viable?
Right.
And we went to market. And honestly, it was the greatest thing for my business because we really did need to just stop talking. We had to get this in people's hands. Yeah. And so it forced us to do that. So thank you for that, number one.
You responded in the appropriate fashion.
So you've been doing this now, you said 5 years?
Yeah, a little over, yep.
But it's been a full-time gig for you for the last year.
Correct.
And a lot of things have changed in the last year with Beta. So we're going to talk about two things on this show. Number one, we're going to talk about BETA.MN. Do you want me to call this BETA.MN, BETA.MN?
Let's just call it Beta.
Let's just call this Beta at this point. You've rebranded in the last couple months as well, right?
So true.
All this change. So we're going to talk about Beta as a business. But I also want to talk about the local ecosystem and startups outside of Beta, or maybe as what you've seen come through Beta.
Yep.
But let's start with the business right now. How does the business work for Beta?
Yeah. It's a 501c3. So, by nature, that affords us to have the opportunity to go at some alternative funding streams that aren't available to for-profit entities. Yep. So things like grants and gifts from family foundations or individuals.
Okay.
But that all said, that's really been a very small portion of the operating revenue that we've had in our existence, probably less than 10%.
Okay.
So therefore, the other 90% has been sponsorships.
Okay.
So all of the different programming that we have, whether it's the Beta Showcase or that Backers program, Startup Week, which we also operate, all of those things have different sponsorship opportunities, and we look for partners that have good alignment with whatever offering that is, and find partnerships to create some operating revenue for the team. So that's kind of how it's been working and sustained itself to date. It continues to get more and more complicated with bringing on new people like Casey and Adam, who we brought in February, and scores of interns along the way that have all made this possible. So
you've always done a great job with the people that you've brought into the organization, whether it's been an intern or the new hires. Maybe talk about that real quickly. The new people that just came on, what roles are they really taking away off of your plate for you?
Well, I think the dirty secret in managing people is it doesn't mean you have less work. It's the same amount of work. It's just different work now. But when Nels moved on from his role as managing director, we really needed some leadership in two key areas. And at the time, it was an operational lead, which is what Adam was brought on to do, and then a point person to run the coordination and relationships related to Startup Week.
Okay.
Along the way, as that brand is developed, it's gotten bigger and more complicated than what I think we ever anticipated. So it was about time that we had leadership dedicated specifically to that brand.
Sure.
And Casey's really jumped in and taken kind of full control of that, which has been amazing.
Casey's been awesome from what I've seen. And so Casey came in at the very tail end of my class in your program. So I didn't get to spend too much time. But just watching what happened at the most recent startup showcase was great, right? It clearly knows what's going on. It's great, right? So that's awesome. You mentioned somebody's name there. I didn't know if I was going to mention the name. I didn't know if I wanted to bring this up, and I know there's no ill will or hard feelings, but I got to ask about it because when you start a business, sometimes there's transition. Sometimes
absolutely.
People that start a business with you for whatever reason aren't there for the entire journey. And that's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Sometimes it's amicable. But Nels, how did that transition, how did that go for you?
Nels was a total champion throughout that entire process. We mentioned me coming in on full time back in July. That's when we discovered that Nels was interested in moving on to a new role. So he was incredible in giving us a lot of time to figure out what was next for the organization, and just kind of looking back to his legacy. Nels was at the very beginning of Startup Week. Like he was running that thing before anybody was really raising their hand to make this happen, and now that property is really turned into the measurement device for how I think as an ecosystem we measure kind of the growth. And I think without his time and his effort and his commitment to the community to develop that and Beta at the same time, we couldn't be at the place that we are. So love the guy. So happy that he landed with an incredible company at Livefront that's doing some really, really cool work. And he's still my buddy. We still enjoy wings at Bunny's. And he'll forever be kind of a partner in crime in this type of work.
But this is something that all founders have to prepare for, right? And I think, this is your business. He was your business partner, right? It's sometimes that can be disaster for a business, and I saw it firsthand. And I think you guys handled it incredibly well.
I appreciate that.
I think that would be kind of a baseline for any business moving forward. It doesn't have to be an ugly split. It can be as simple as I'm ready for something else. you're ready to take on more responsibility with this.
Yeah.
So let's just do that. Let's take new roads and just do that.
Yeah, I'm going to connect this to your earlier comment, but in my career, one of the most important things that I've learned is the importance of leaving well.
Yeah.
And what that means is, providing that layer of time to close out your work and transfer your work and make sure that whomever is going to be taking over has a good context for getting the job done. And earlier you were mentioning what it means to like leave and make a jump into something that's scary and something that's different. And what I've learned is that when you leave well, you have the opportunity to either work with them in your next business, or if things don't work out, you can always go back.
Absolutely.
So, Nels, I think, took that wisdom and put it into practice and something that I practice as well.
No, it's great. And he was a great resource while I was in the program. He's still a great resource to startups. I see him having conversations with startups all the time. Great guy. Okay. Let's move on from that then. Awesome. So real quick here, another thing I wanted to chat about is these accelerators. It's not like nobody's doing this, right? There seems to be a new one almost weekly at times. You are structured much differently than many of them.
Sure.
So that's a differentiator. But one thing that I think is really interesting is I see a lot of camaraderie and support, at least here in Minnesota, between the various groups, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, about the synergies and the ways that you guys are all helping each other?
Yeah. There are people in my position as leads of communities that are all caretaking for the people within their specific community. And as active and networked as this job is, it can be lonely and you can have problems that not a lot of people can relate to. So I think by nature of the role, we've reached out to each other and trust each other to work through issues and try to make sense of what's happening. So I think there's a camaraderie that exists across leaders of different organizations. And what's different about, I think, what's happening here in the Twin Cities is though there are times when we might be in competition. It really is pretty collaborative in nature, and I think we're in the process of figuring out, like, if I meet somebody at a certain stage that might not be right for our programming, where should we send that person?
Absolutely.
And we've seen a lot of that, whether they're, we're picking some teams out of the Minnesota Cup that are just completing their process with them, or the other way around. The G Beta program into our Beta program. There's a dozen other organizations that exist that are in this space, and I think we try to do a good job of making sure that we're putting people towards or in the direction of the thing that's going to be most helpful for them at that time.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's very clear that all the organizations are passionate about ensuring that the startup ecosystem is healthy in Minnesota. That's what they're looking at, and I've seen, we've all seen how the other groups have been working together to ensure that, look, if it's not a right fit for you in Techstars today, maybe you should look at Beta, or maybe you should look at Generator. We've seen it recently with Sezzle, for example, was in one of your cohorts.
That's right.
Many years ago.
Yep.
And now they were just accepted into the Target Techstars retail.
That's right.
Right. So, there's an example right there. Renera, for example, was also in Target.
We've had 12 companies that have gone from our programming into a Techstars program.
Yeah, which is great, right? So you're really kind of helping to move them in the direction they need to go to get them to a point where they can actually be in a Techstars, right? I mean, Techstars is kind of the dream for a lot of startups.
They do a very good job.
They do a great job, and they have, national exposure, right? So, is that the dream of Beta? Should we go down this road? What is the future of Beta? What do you want to build this into?
It's a difficult question to answer, and the reason that is because the way that we form the programs that we provide is really based entirely on the needs of founders. So if you rewind the clock back 5 years and say, like, why did the showcase come to be? It was really because we didn't see there being a celebration of the people that were taking risks. There were a number of fantastic organizations that were kind of helping them in that process of developing their businesses, but what was missing was, like, where's the party?
Right.
And, like, I'm sorry, but I think people like you are cool, and we should put you on a pedestal and celebrate the...
We should party together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, so when we did the showcase in the first go around, it was really like, let's make this sexy. Let's make this fun. Let's add a good brand to it. And we've really stuck to that as a way of building individuals that our communities can look up to and celebrate. So when we look at the future is going to be completely dictated by what do we feel is the needs of the community as it develops. Right. So last year when I came in full time, we launched the Backers Program and the Press Program. The Backers Program is access to early stage investors, and the Press Program is relationships between founders and the media. The reason that we did those two things is because over the last 5 years, we've heard time and again that it's inefficient to get meetings. Investors aren't getting great deal flow, and the founders aren't getting access to investors in a way that's timely. And we know time is the most important element. Same deal with the media. And you know, so as a result of that, we piloted these programs, and I think we demonstrated traction in each one of them. And now we're kind of trying to scale those efforts on both fronts. So long story to get to your answer, you know, I'm taking a critical look at what that pathway is in our startup ecosystem, and trying to understand where are the gaps. You know, we can discuss where I think a few of those still might be, but ultimately that's going to be kind of how we continue to shape the organization.
But for the foreseeable future, you see this as staying a Minnesota thing.
For the time being. I mean, the rebrand allows us to think a little bit bigger. I would have to change the website, obviously, but
easy enough.
There's definitely an appetite, and we've had discussions about what does Beta look like in other markets, and I'm open to those conversations. It's just a matter of capacity and focus at this point.
Okay, awesome. I want to touch on Startup Week for a little bit, because it's like my favorite week of the year. I would take Startup Week over Christmas just about any year. But man, if you want to know what hell looks like, look for someone in a Beta shirt running around like for the month before Startup Week and the entire week of Startup Week, trying to keep things controlled. What is that like for you?
It's, I mean, we're blessed to be in the position that we are to you know, be driving a lot of the activity, and thankfully a lot of the work is done by the partners that are involved in creating the content, putting on events. So you know, the people that we partner with, particularly on some of the signature events, like, they've got that stuff down. And therefore we don't have to worry about it. We take responsibility over the opening and the closing. We have our own beta events during the week. So yes, it is pretty overwhelming week, but actually a majority of the work is already in motion. And what that means for our team is, the way I've been thinking about it recently is we're basically kind of like an operating system. We're the iOS on which people submit their apps, in this case, their events. And so we have to write the standards for what those events are. We've got to help people know what the process is for submitting. And we have to provide them with resources and tools to make sure that their quality of events is continuing to improve. So a lot of that coordination and encouragement and troubleshooting is all a part of the process between now and October 9th. so we're right in the thick of it.
Yeah. So get ready, everybody, because it's coming. Seriously, that being involved in your cohort and having the beta showcase literally happening in tandem with Startup Week was just like, for me, it was epic. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was because the showcase was, I think, 3 days into Startup Week, or maybe even 2, I can't remember. But regardless, I got to walk around like a rock star for the rest of that week because everybody came to the beta showcase. All the out-of-towners that had never met me, and every event that I went to from there on out was just like, oh, hey, there's that guy that looked like Chris Farley screaming in the corner, sweating through his shirt, right? I still have to thank Jeff Pesek for posting that video. But anyway, what can you do? No, awesome. Now I want to switch gears a little bit. Let's get off beta as a business.
Yeah.
Let's turn to Reed as the person that's been keeping a finger on the pulse of the Minnesota startup ecosystem.
Yeah.
Let's first start with beta itself. What you've seen come through beta. What are some of the things that have really, let's start with what's really impressed you with what's come through beta over the last 5 years, what you've seen happen.
Yeah, it's an easy answer. The willingness of the community to reinvest in itself is without question the most satisfying part of this job. Yeah. You know, we've had 138 companies now go through it, which is something like 300 founders. Yeah. And a majority of those are still engaged. Yep. You know, they answer emails, they're on our Slack channel, they're regularly helping each other fill jobs, find service providers, answer questions, and that willingness to kind of give back and reinvest is what this is all about. And you know, I recently, as an anecdote, was chatting with a founder from a recent cohort who was working on their pitch deck, and you know, we were getting together to work through it too, and they had just spoken with Clarence from Upsea, who had, you know, gone out of his way to really sit down with this individual and help them understand what to anticipate in those types of conversations. Yep. So if there's anything I'm proud of what we've accomplished, it's building a network of incredible people and incredible business leaders that I think, you know, many years from now will be running a lot of, you know, our largest companies and really stewards of the future economic vitality of the Twin Cities.
Nice. What are some of the trends that you're seeing over the last year with the startups that are coming through? It can be industry vertical, it can be the kind of technology or whatever, but what are you seeing as trends right now in Minnesota?
Yeah, I feel like we're starting to recognize who we are as a startup community, and focusing on building companies in the spaces that make the most sense for us to do. Okay. I was a co-founder of a company called Heroic. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and I was one of 4 co-founders. In hindsight, like, love the idea and the product. I think one of the things I recognized about that experience is, like, this really wasn't the right place to build that type of business.
Sure.
And I think that's what I'm seeing now is people taking a good look at their resources around them and saying, okay, what do I have the best chance of being successful at here? And building that company. And like the way that I've been talking about it is, I don't know if you've ever played Settlers of Catan.
Nope.
Okay, so I'm a nerd, and you know, this is one of the original nerd games. Yeah. Okay. And you know, you put your little property on a piece of resources, and depending on how those dice roll out, that's how you develop your settlement and win the game. Okay. And people that take a view of looking at their resources and figuring out what's the most strategic play are the ones that are having the most success. Yeah. Yeah. So any nerds listening to this that want to send in any sort of hate mail, that goes right to read@BETA.MN.com. No, I'm kidding. No, that's great. I literally just heard someone talking about this game on the radio on my way into the office today. So it's a good one.
It must be like making a resurgence right now. I have no idea. Okay, awesome. This might be a harder one to answer. And if you don't feel comfortable answering it, saying, I don't feel comfortable saying anything is totally acceptable. But what are the things that you've seen from some of the startups, either in the program or just peripheral, that you have been really shocked in a not so positive way by?
It's really the exception.
Yeah.
Thankfully. And really I think the thing that stands out to me as the people that seem to struggle the most are the ones that aren't willing to learn.
Sure.
And that takes form in a number of ways. But ultimately it's asking for feedback and for support.
Yep.
And then either myself or people within the network reaching out to try to support those individuals, and those founders not really considering that information in a way that could be helpful for their business. And
right.
Again, it's few and far between, but when you do see it, you recognize it as a red flag and something that isn't ultimately going to lead success for that person.
So we spoke about this, or I spoke about this on the show not too long ago with Gario Harrison, who I know you know. Great guy. But we were talking about the growth mindset. Right?
Yep.
Critically important.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have not only the appetite to learn new things, but you have to be able to set your ego aside and learn, right, from people around you.
Yeah.
Because none of us have all the answers.
No, I think ego is the right part of the issue for those that might struggle with this. But it can be a double-edged sword, right? So you have to have conviction in your business, and if you take too much feedback, whether it be from investors or potential customers, you're going to be pulled in so many different ways. And I've seen that time and again, where strategy shifts too often. So you have to have conviction and confidence in your strategy, but it's really more about you may not have to agree with this individual, but you have to consider it.
No, I think one of my favorite quotes out of the 10 episodes that we've officially recorded on the show was Mitch Kupit, who discussed how if you're looking for experts to lead you to your golden path, you're going to fail. Right? And he was talking about how he intentionally looks to advise founders that will disagree. So it's just like you say. Have a conviction, like believe in what you're doing, absolutely. And don't be afraid to stand up for what you think is right, but at the same time, you can't be so closed off that when everything's on fire, you say, nope, I'm right. It's going to be fine.
And I think the worst form of this is disrespect. And if you can disagree and have a great conversation with anybody about your business, but as founders, we hear no a lot. And that wears that person out. And I think sometimes that pushes people so far to the point where they react in a way that's disrespectful. Again, not a norm, but it can happen. And we've seen it happen. And when it gets to that point, then I think you've gone too far, and it's probably time to take a step back and check your mental health and make sure that you're doing okay and that you've got the stamina required to do this, because that's just the nature of life as a founder.
I like that.
Yeah,
you're totally right though. All right, so what do you want to see more of in the next 5 years coming into Minnesota as far as innovation, startups, whatever?
We've got some pretty big problems in the world. And one of the things that I've started to recognize in who we are as a startup ecosystem is we build businesses that matter. What I mean by that is, like, we don't build Candy Crush here. Right. We build.
Actually, though, the spinning Coke bottle app that did come from Minnesota.
Well, maybe there are exceptions, but we build businesses that keep people healthy, that keep people safe, that feed the world, and I think if I could steward people towards any type of business. It's like, let's solve some of these big issues that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And specifically in energy and waste, in the environment, and in equity, and making sure that we're continuing to perpetuate who we are as a community of people that go after big, nasty problems.
Yep.
With scalable solutions.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's the operative word there, right? With scalable solutions.
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yep.
And I think that we've seen a really good amount of that in like the ag tech space in Minnesota, right? And there's a lot of solar energy, wind power energy in Minnesota as well, but even more socially good. That's environmentally conscious and good, but more social good. I can totally get behind that. I would love that. I know one of the next guests that's going to be on the show is going to be Rally Registry. Mm-hmm. They were part of the cohort with me.
Yep.
I love the good that they bring into people's lives.
Plus, they're just great people.
Well, I mean, they're okay, but no, they're great. Are you kidding me? Like, they're some of the sweetest founders I know, but I can't wait to have them on. And I love what they're doing, and I love what they're creating, and I hope that that's successful, right? But these are some of the groups I would have never probably met them had I not gone through the cohort with them, right? Parker with Travel Labs, he was on the show.
Yep.
Incredible guy. Building an incredible business.
Yeah.
I want to know him when he sells that for $500 billion.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's going to be a fun day to go on his yacht with him. Right. But, it's really fun to watch all of this. And I think you're right. There's been so much camaraderie, not just in the current cohort that I just graduated from, or the new cohort coming in, or the previous cohorts that I never even met. We're all in a Slack channel. We're all having communications. There's a really funny one going on right now that I can't discuss, but it's fun, right? It's fun to be a part of that and to get to know these people. Then when we run into each other at events, it's cool. I've been seeing your logo on Slack for the last 6 months. Now I get to actually put a face to this, so that's really fun. So what I would just end this with is, honestly, on behalf of me and all the other startups that have either A, gone through your program, or B, have benefited from Startup Week, or the Beta Showcase, or have been people that have been inspired to start businesses because being in that environment, it's infectious. They want to do things, and then they go on to do incredible things.
Right.
We all have a lot to thank BETA.MN, Beta for what you've done for the local ecosystem.
Yeah.
So sincerely, thank you for that.
I appreciate that. It's important that we never take credit for the risk that you're taking.
Sure.
And
you have zero
that you
equity
do
in my
it.
business. Yes,
that's right. But it's something that I'm very sensitive to, of making sure that our founders are first.
Yep.
And that everything that we're doing is for your benefit.
Yep.
So if we can get more Joshes and more Katies and Liz's and Simons and Jessies and great people that are taking risks to create wealth and prosperity in the Twin Cities, job well done.
Yep.
So we're gonna keep doing it, and whatever we can do to help, just keep us honest.
So you have a new cohort that just started. The next, so anyone listening, if you are working on your startup right now and you're thinking maybe I should be a part of Beta, when does the next cohort start?
So it'll be right around Startup Week.
Okay.
So we'll have the same similar experience
That's
to you.
That's the one to be in.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, anyone listening right now, get ready, because if you can start during Startup Week, what a great springboard to go off of. Okay, so, and if somebody's interested, what's the best way to get in contact with you to have this discussion?
There's a form on our site that we're constantly monitoring. So go to BETA.MN and hit the Join the Next Cohort button.
Yep.
And that will go directly to our inboxes. We'll check it out, have a follow-up conversation with you, and kind of start that process.
Nice. Reed, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to cut you off right there. We're at time. We made it.
We did it.
Good job. One take.
Yeah.
We did it. All right. Thanks a lot, Reed. All right. Bye, everybody. I'll talk to you in a couple weeks here. Next guest coming up, I'm drawing a blank, but I believe the next one is actually Rally Registry. It might be Chris Carlisle.
No, it has to be.
No, it can't. I think it's Chris Carlisle, actually. I think it's my lawyer. So either way, it's going to be fun. We'll talk to you guys then. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.